World War III. And
But
are we really talking about people being willing to start World War III to bring the aliens back? Basically, is that what we're talking about here?
well, what I have my question is, if Israel is, if Jerusalem and Israel, and they arguably have the the most intelligent intelligence community in the world, and they're allied with the places like the United States. How much do other governments or other governing bodies, how much are they clued in on this? Because I'd be hard pressed to say that the capital, right? The DC and Washington, maybe even the Vatican, right? Especially if things like the Ark of the Covenant um, are in fact in Jerusalem, under the temple. I it's not proven. It's a theory, but what's your take on that? You know, I'd arguably say that the Vatican, the United States, and maybe the British Ministry of Defense, and then just Israel. Um, they are the controllers of the world. They they are the people pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Well, so that's one of the big issues too, is that it's been said that the first temple had the 10 commandments and it had the Ark of the Covenant. Now, I personally think the Ark of the Covenant was the craft that brought God to the temple. And I think that and I know that that's a depiction of the Ark of the Covenant, and that's how it's been portrayed. But if you read the account of Ezekiel from the Bible, he's describing a flying craft. So it's possible that all of these ancient artifacts were put under the temple when it was attacked. And then, so when the Muslims built the Dome of the Rock over that area, it's possible they gained control of these ancient artifacts. Now, really, if you think about it, what could be more powerful to have control of on Earth than ancient alien technology? And if you don't mind, can I just read Ezekiel's um, Ezekiel? So Ezekiel saw the craft leaving the temple, and I think I gave you that. Do you have that illustration with the gold craft? And then it's got the Bible scripture there where he describes it. And then Ezekiel had a
I
vision.
can I can get it.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Yeah. And then Ezekiel had a vision later, um, that because he saw God, which is an extraterrestrial or an interdimension, is not of this earth, is an entity, is a corporeal entity not of this earth. And so I'll just read you the scripture. It says, "The glory of the Lord entered the temple through the gate facing east. I heard someone speaking to me from inside the temple. He said, 'Son of man, this is the place of my throne and the place for the soles of my feet. This is where I will live among the Israelites forever.'" So we're not talking about some spirit, some non-corporeal spirit that just sort of hangs around. We're talking about a corporeal physical entity of some sort who literally has feet and says this is where their feet will be with the Israelites forever. And so that was a future vision. But if anybody can read the description of Ezekiel's wheel, so Ezekiel saw the entity in the temple leave, and he described the craft that that the entity was in. And I think lots of people have seen descriptions. He talks about wheels within wheels, but I found the perfect artist's rendition of it. And really, he's describing a saucer shaped craft that is turning within itself. It's like a top, if you can picture a top that, turns in the middle. That's what he's describing. And he says it has eyes all around the rim. Those are most likely portholes. All right, so I think those are previous renditions, but I texted you one last night. And I'm
Yeah, I don't.
there. Oh,
I can't
um,
find it.
well, it's pretty. Let me see. It's really important. It's a gold disc. Um,
I mean, I'm assuming it would look like something like this with the eyes all around it.
no,
Like it's
that's
saying.
that's very different. You know what? I think I'm gonna text it to you again because it's pretty. It's got the scripture on there and everything. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to see if I can text it to you again.
But Ezekiel, Burchett has been on the show several times, talking about Ezekiel and the wheel, and the wheel within the wheel, right? And how, you know, basically, if you basically take that story and you look through a different lens, look at it through a lens of current times. The highest technologically and capable invention at the time was the wheel. So he describes it with their highest advancement in technology, right? Same thing that we do now. We call them extraterrestrials. They're in spaceships because we have spaceships and we're flying to the moon, right? So, it's changed from, Jacques Vallée's talked about this, how it's changed. The name's just simply changed from fairies to gods to the forces of nature and elements and incarnate to now extraterrestrials. So I think it's fair to say that if they are now, we've talked about this plenty of times, and I think it's safe to say that there is some sort of back door where people are discussing if this is happening out in the open in Jerusalem, right? Again, what are the other governing bodies clued in on? And is that the reason that the UFO files and transparency, Rogan talks about it all the time. Why now? Why now? Why everybody's asking, why now? Why now? Well, could it be because we know something's coming and we have
Right.
to get everybody buckled up and braced for impact?
Yes.
You know?
And I think I've read statistics that we are at the lowest church attendance ever in the history of churches. Most are not educated at all in scripture. So if something like extraterrestrials show up and they're ancient aliens, um, people are
George
not going
Nicholas would
to
be.
on. Did you get the picture that I just texted to you? Because that's really the one that just drives it home.
All right. I'll pull it up, but
Uh,
it's gonna take me a minute.
but so the whole point is that all of this is going towards the end times, and that means different things for different religions. It's really hard to summarize what that means for one religion because it's different for so many. But basically it's the return. It's the return of this of this other entity. And, so who are these entities? And are they going to come back really angry? Because Old Testament God was really angry. And, sorry. uh, and, some of the Christian faiths will say, well, the rapture will come first. And, well, is rapture just another word for abduction? Is that what we would call it now? And I think it's an exciting time because religion and science are finally coming together. Like, religion does not seem whole by itself because it doesn't make a lot of sense when you're talking about um, when you're talking about these beings and these creatures, and you don't what is this? And science isn't complete either. But when you bring them both together, it really is. It really gives a whole picture, I think. And I think they are preparing us. Like you said. I think it's possible they're coming back. And obviously, the Jewish faith, they think that they're coming back. They're going to so much trouble to.
And it's not
They're
even just the Jewish faith. Some Catholics believe this too, that with the building of the third temple, it will prompt the return of the
of
Messiah, Jesus
Jesus.
Christ,
Yeah.
Yahweh. You know, um,
And
so
yes, so for the Christians it means, and for different sects of Christianity it means different things. So for some of the Christians, they believe that this will mark the return of Jesus and the rapture and the tribulation
so
and
what
the
when you
time.
say the rapture, I want you to be clear. What is the rapture?
Basically, the rapture is another word for being abducted. Um, the rapture is when God or Jesus comes back and he takes up all of his followers. And I've seen movies where people have had it depicted, where they're literally sitting in their car on the highway and then poof, they're just gone. But Jesus will take everybody back up with him into heaven, while everything goes down on earth, and people will be brought back to life. Um, that is the rapture. Really, it's another word for abduction. Yes, there it is. That's the visual that I think everybody needs. And can you see it well enough to read it? Because that I think that
Yep.
really
So
nails
I'll read it.
Ezekiel. Okay.
They were identical wheels. Let me get full screen here. Sorry. They were identical wheels, sparkling like diamonds in the sun. It looked like they were wheels within wheels, like a gyroscope. 17-21. They went in any one of the four directions they faced, but straight, not veering off. The rims were immense, circled with eyes. When the living creatures went, the wheels went. When the living creatures lifted off, the wheels lifted off. So it kind of sounds like what he's describing is that when when he says that um so they went in any one of the four directions they faced, so that's oscillation, right? But straight, and it was moving straight, not veering off. The rims were immense, circled with eyes, which you pointed out to be portholes, maybe. When the living creatures went, the wheels went. So that's where it kind of confuses me. Is he thinking this is a living creature? Is he
Well,
because but he
yeah.
says wheels.
So he actually talks about that earlier. I
Or
think
was there someone in the craft?
there's a living person in the craft, and he says that it looks like a human, like it looks like a person with bronze skin. So I'm thinking that this is a
The
person.
Guardians of the Galaxy people.
I'm thinking they're in some kind of bronze suit, and they